Good morning, America. And breaking overnight, Senator John McCain diagnosed with brain cancer. The beloved war hero now in the fight of his life. How doctors discovered the tumor. And the incredibly powerful statement from his daughter, saying her dad has cancer, but it won't make him surrender.
President Trump's explosive new interview, lashing out at his own team, America's top law enforcement officials. He now says making Jeff Sessions Attorney General was a mistake.
If he was going to recuse himself, he should have told me before he took the job, and I would have picked somebody else.
Trump also calls fired FBI Director James Comey a liar and issues a threat to the special counsel in charge of the Russia investigation.
State of emergency. More than 40 wildfires raging out west. New evacuations overnight as the flames close in on Yosemite National Park. More than 2,000 firefighters battling the blaze. And the new excessive heat warnings in the east.
And Decision Day. O.J. Simpson hours away from learning his fate. Will the former football star soon walk free after 9 years behind bars? Ron Goldman's father, Fred, and sister Kim are here live in an ABC News exclusive.
Live in Times Square, this is GMA with Robin Roberts, George Stephanopoulos, and Michael Strahan.
And we do say good morning, America. A lot of news to get to this Thursday morning, and so many well wishes going out to John McCain, and we had ours.
Yeah, what a giant John McCain has been. Man at the center of American life for more than 50 years, prisoner of war in Vietnam, Republican nominee for president, elder statesman of the Senate. He had been experiencing double vision. You guys might remember those difficult moments he had at the James Comey hearing as well. Well, when he went to the doctor last week, they removed a blood clot from above his left eye. That's when they discovered the brain tumor.
Overnight, his wife, Cindy McCain, posting this photo for their wedding day, thanking people for their thoughts, saying her husband is the toughest person I know. He is my hero. I love him with all my heart. Our congressional correspondent, Mary Bruce, has the latest, joins us from Capitol Hill. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, Robin. A lot of heavy hearts here this morning. John McCain is known in these halls as a fierce fighter. He's tough, and this morning he's in the midst of a hard fight once again. This morning, a giant of the Senate is battling brain cancer. Senator John McCain is recovering at home in Arizona after having surgery last Friday to remove a blood clot above his left eye. Further tests, his doctors say, revealed a tumor, which was removed. His office says the senator and his family are currently reviewing treatment options, including radiation and chemotherapy. His daughter Megan posting an emotional tribute online, reading, "The one of us who is most confident and calm is my father. He is the toughest person I know. The cruelest enemy could not break him. The aggressions of political life could not bend him. Cancer may afflict him in many ways, but it will not make him surrender. Nothing ever has." The 80-year-old senator and former Republican presidential nominee is a fighter and an American hero. As a young man, he spent 5.5 years as a prisoner of war in Vietnam, enduring cruel treatment and harsh conditions. In recent years, he's overcome melanoma. And politically,
does that set your hair on fire?
He's never been known to shy away from a fight.
So maybe we ought to put a little perspective on this in our hysteria.
Just last week, he took to the floor to deliver a blunt speech about health care.
This is disgraceful. What I'm asking for is simple. If we're going to stay here to work, then let's get some work done.
Late last night, his close friend, Lindsey Graham, told reporters McCain says he's been through worse.
God knows how this ends, not me. But I do know this. This disease has never had a more worthy opponent.
And this morning, an outpouring of support and encouragement. Former President Obama tweeting cancer doesn't know what it's up against. Give it hell, John. And from President Trump, his thoughts and prayers and these words. Senator John McCain has always been a fighter. Get well soon. Now, no word yet on when McCain may be returning to Washington, but we're told he's in good spirits. And George, when I've seen him recently, he's seemed like his usual self, joking with us reporters, giving us plenty of grief. And you can't overstate how beloved John McCain is here on both sides of the aisle. The thoughts and prayers of this whole building are with him this morning. George.
We have been seeing it and feeling it. Mary Bruce, thanks very much. We're joined now by Senator McCain's colleague, the junior senator from Arizona, Jeff Flake. Senator Flake, thank you for joining us this morning. I know you called Senator McCain yesterday. Tell us what he said, how he's doing.
Well, you know, I called him before we heard of the diagnosis and spoke to him for several minutes about what was going on Capitol Hill and what he was missing about health care and what Arizona needed in that regard. And only at the end of the conversation, I asked him how he was feeling today, and he said I'm feeling fine, but I might have some chemotherapy in my future. And that's how I learned of it. So it was almost in passing about his diagnosis. So he's optimistic. Obviously, he's John McCain. That's what we'd expect.
Boy, that sure does sound like John McCain. And I know you first went to the Senate as an intern back in 1987. You've never known a Senate without John McCain.
That's right. It's hard to imagine a Senate without John McCain. He is obviously the elder statesman. He is a steadying force, one who stands for the institution and bipartisanship. And I cannot overstate what an impact he has in the Senate.
Any sense at all of when he might be able to come back?
We don't know. I understand that he's discussing that with the doctors, treatment regimen, and his family. Obviously, we need him back here. He wants to be back here. We're going to be doing the National Defense Authorization Act. That's his bill. We always do that because he insists that we always do that, and it's a good thing.
Senator Flake, please pass along our best wishes when you speak with him.
Will do. Thank you.
Senator Jeff Flake.
And George, now we're going to be joined by Dr. David Reardon. He is the clinical director of neuro-oncology at the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. He is one of the doctors who treated Senator Ted Kennedy for the same type of cancer. Dr. Reardon, thank you very much for your time this morning. I know your thoughts, as everyone, the nations, the world, is with John McCain right now. And just tell us, from what you know, how serious his condition is.
Good morning. Senator McCain has a diagnosis called glioblastoma, which is the most common type of cancer that arises in the brain in adult patients. There are approximately 13,000 cases diagnosed in the United States each year. This is a type of cancer that we do have effective treatments that can help patients for. But unfortunately, like many aggressive cancers, the durability of that benefit is something we have to continue to work on and try to improve.
As we said, you are one of the doctors who treated Senator Ted Kennedy, and there have been a lot of comparisons between the two. But what is the same and what is different with Senator McCain's diagnosis?
Well, this diagnosis has several similar features between the two cases and between all cases, but we know from much research that's been done that there's a lot of variability and difference between each individual case. Senator Kennedy's case was a very challenging one. These tumors, depending on where they are in the brain and their size, their location relevant to important functional areas of the brain, can be even more challenging to treat. And unfortunately, those were circumstances for Senator Kennedy. In Senator McCain, what we know thus far is that the tumor appears to have been fairly small, fairly superficially located, not in a critical functional area of the brain, and able to undergo an effective surgical resection.
And so what do you feel will be the potential next steps for Senator McCain?
The gold standard for treatment going forward is to allow patients a few weeks to recover after surgery, and then they begin radiation therapy, which typically lasts for about 6 weeks. During that time, they take a daily dose of an oral chemotherapy medicine.
As we know, he is quite a fighter, and he wants to get back there to Washington, D.C. Dr. Reardon, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Okay, Robin, thanks. Senator McCain's story, one of many major stories coming out of Washington today, 6 months to the day that President Trump took office. The president is saying that the GOP health care effort isn't dead yet, as the Senate Republicans are trying to revive their health care bill after meeting with the president yesterday. He told them to stay in Washington until it was done. And Senate GOP leader Mitch McConnell is sticking by his decision to hold a vote to repeal Obamacare next week, despite a damaging report from the Congressional Budget Office, which estimates the repeal would increase premiums and cause 32 million Americans to lose coverage over the next decade. On the Russia investigation, Jared Kushner now set to meet behind closed doors with the Senate Intelligence Committee on Monday. Donald Trump Jr. and Paul Manafort have been invited to testify to the Senate Judiciary Committee on Wednesday. And that Russia investigation clearly weighing on President Trump. He took it on, issuing a blunt warning to Special Counsel Mueller in an explosive interview with the New York Times. Our senior White House correspondent Cecilia Vega joins us with all the fallout. Good morning, Cecilia.
George, good morning to you. Russia very much on the president's mind on this 6-month mark. Virtually no one off limits, especially his own attorney general. The president using this interview to publicly bash Jeff Sessions.
President Trump lashing out in that bombshell interview, telling the New York Times he never would have picked Jeff Sessions for Attorney General if he knew Sessions would recuse himself from the Russia probe.
Sessions should have never recused himself. And if he was going to recuse himself, he should have told me before he took the job, and I would have picked somebody else.
It's been more than 4 months since that surprise recusal announcement.
Therefore, I have recused myself.
But the president is still fuming.
How do you take a job and then recuse yourself? If he would have recused himself before the job, I would have said, thanks, Jeff, but I can't, I'm not going to take you. It's extremely unfair, and that's a mild word, to the president.
The president also fixating his ire on James Comey, the former FBI director fired over the Russia probe, saying Comey's recent Capitol Hill testimony was, quote, loaded up with lies. And then this, he accused Comey of leveraging an alleged dossier of incriminating information about the president in an attempt to keep his job. That dossier, which President Trump previously called totally made up facts by sleazebag political operatives, was compiled by a former British spy who supposedly used anonymous sources deep in the Kremlin. The president telling the Times, quote, in my opinion, he shared it so that I would think he had it out there. The hits didn't end there. The president calling into question the integrity of the man spearheading the independent investigation into Russian election meddling and Moscow's possible ties to the Trump campaign. President Trump saying special counsel Robert Mueller's office is rife with conflicts of interest. And he warned investigators would cross a red line if they looked into Trump family finances not tied to Russia. I think that's a violation, the president said. Look, this is about Russia. The president also speaking publicly for the first time about that previously undisclosed conversation with Russia's Vladimir Putin at the G20 summit, saying they only spoke for about 15 minutes.
Actually, it was very interesting. We talked about adoption, Russian adoption, which is interesting because that was a part of the conversation that Don had.
Now, one other headline from that interview. You'll remember last month the president's tweet saying that he's under investigation for firing the FBI director. Well, he now says he doesn't think he's under investigation, George, saying, quote, for what? I didn't do anything wrong.
One of many headlines there. Cecilia, thanks very much. Let's talk more about this now from our chief legal analyst, Dan Abrams, also senior justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas. Dan, let me begin with you. I don't want to put up a tweet. There's a lot of reaction to this. Extraordinary interview in so many ways. Preet Bharara, the U.S. attorney who President Trump fired, said in his tweet, the president today effectively asked Sessions for his resignation. Will he resign or insist on being fired in any other world, any other president, any other attorney general? The resignation would come in.
And I think that it likely will in the days and weeks to come. Look, regardless of what you think about Jeff Sessions or James Comey or Robert Mueller, this is stunning. If you care about law enforcement and the officials' positions that they hold, this feels like a troubling effort to undermine their independence. You have the President of the United States in one interview attacking directly or indirectly the Attorney General, the Assistant Attorney General, the acting FBI director, the former FBI director, and the special counsel, all in a matter of a few paragraphs. That's astonishing.
And he did it in such a casual way. Yet, Pierre, your reporting last night, all signs are that the Attorney General hunkering down.
George, last night the Justice Department declined to comment, and early indications are that both Sessions and the Deputy AG plan to keep their heads down and will try to keep working. But make no mistake, top officials were very aware of everything the president said, and it creates a tremendous amount of pressure, an unusual work environment to say the least. The notion that the President of the United States is criticizing the nation's top law enforcement officials in this manner is so unusual. Yes, they're political appointees who serve at the president's pleasure, but the Justice Department, at least in terms of criminal investigations and also national security investigation, is supposed to have a degree of independence and autonomy, George.
And Pierre, in that interview, not one but two threats, warnings to the special counsel Mueller. The first one about going into the president's finances. The second one saying that he knows about a lot more conflicts of interest, may reveal them later.
Well, George, the special counsel declined to comment last night, and so far, Mueller has largely ignored complaints from President Trump. But let me tell you this, sources I'm talking to say the notion that the president is saying that something should not be investigated is likely to increase pressure on Mueller to do just that, look into it.
And Dan Abrams, the president in that interview, not ruling out firing Mueller.
Look, I think within 100 days, the president is going to fire Robert Mueller. He can't fire him himself.
Extraordinary.
But Everything is extraordinary. I mean, the comments we're talking about are extraordinary. And while the president can't fire him himself, he can certainly order someone else to end up firing him from the Justice Department. These are not the comments that you make when you are expecting this to be a long and difficult investigation. Now, this doesn't mean that the president committed a crime. Let me be clear. It's not to say that the president committed a crime and therefore he's going to fire Robert Mueller. I just think the comments that he's making are making it clear he's had enough of this investigation.
One more quick point on this. The person who would have to carry out the firing is actually the Deputy AG, Rod Rosenstein, who the president criticized.
Right, but then you go to the person below. So if Rod Rosenstein quits or gets fired, you go to the person below him. This is what happened with Nixon.
Saturday Night Massacre. Dan Abrams, Pierre Thomas, thanks very much.
All right, George, going to move on from politics to that state of emergency in California. More than 3 dozen wildfires raging across the West, forcing evacuations just outside of Yosemite National Park. ABC's Kenneth Moten is on the ground in Cathy's Valley, where they're seeing the devastation firsthand. Good morning, Kenneth.
Good morning, Robin. Just a devastating scene here. Homes reduced to rubble. So far, 30 structures destroyed. Property like this car burned out. The good news this morning, no lives lost. This morning, that raging wildfire in Central California sparking more evacuations. More than 2,200 firefighters are working around the clock in Mariposa County, battling the Detweiler fire. The 70-square-mile wildfire scorching 48,000 acres and destroying 29 structures, and is showing no signs of slowing down, only 7% contained. The flames just 35 miles away from Yosemite, the national park in the middle of its busy tourist season.
As you can see, the explosive fuel growth, the explosive fire conditions made it difficult for firefighters across.
On the ground, so much damage already done. For residents, an absolute nightmare. Be safe.
Everybody's scared. You'd never think something like this would happen in your town.
Nearly 5,000 evacuated from their homes.
We were not prepared for this whatsoever.
Officials say this fire will burn and continue to threaten this area until late August, even September. Robin?
Oh, those scenes. All right, Kenneth, thanks so much. And now the other top stories, Amy?
That's right. Good morning, everyone. And the Pentagon saying U.S. forces in Syria are in even greater danger this morning after Turkey's state-run media revealed the secret location of U.S. bases in a region of Syria controlled by Kurdish forces. U.S. support for the Kurds has angered Turkey, which considers them terrorists. Well, there is a new study that warns the world has produced so much plastic waste it could now bury all of Manhattan 2 miles deep. More than 9 billion tons of plastic have been produced since 1950, and less than 10% has been recycled. Some shocking video out of Florida. A man started shooting at 2 utility trucks. He was angry, apparently, that the crews from AT&T were parked outside his house. Look at that. He shot the tires and the engine. Thankfully, nobody was hurt. And a 9-year-old New Mexico boy made the discovery of a lifetime. Jude Sparks hiking near his home when he tripped over what he thought was an old cow skull. Turns out it was a 1-million-year-old fossil, an ancestor to an elephant. And now it is in a good place where everyone can see and enjoy in a museum.
Paleontologist right there.
Yes.
Okay, Amy, thanks very much. Want to go quickly to Ginger? Boy, that heat is really settling in.
Oh, so much so that in Nashville, a construction worker overtaken by the heat treated. He's okay now, but I think we'll see more of these scenes. 109, the feels like in Kansas City this afternoon. 101 D.C. Your local weather in 30 seconds. First, the hot cities, brought to you by Walgreens.
Summer took a hit this morning when Frankie popped the alligator floaty. Plus, snacks and drinks are gone, people. And one of us used up all the sunscreen. I wonder who. We're gonna need some reinforcements. Quick.
Copy that. Walgreens makes it easy when summer needs a little help. Your summer base camp is just around the corner, so you can get in, out, and back to those summer shenanigans. Walgreens, at the corner of happy and healthy. Now with card, buy one, get one 50% off sunscreen.
Much of the area under today. The temperatures, high temperatures for today, and the high humidity will make it feel like we're in the triple-digit readings this afternoon. Again, D.C. on south does include areas Philadelphia on up to New York City too, with excessive heat. And look at the heat index temperatures through Saturday, even Sunday, into the triple digits. So this heat lasting another 4 days at least. Could see some afternoon showers and storms the weekend, maybe even Monday.
That high-stakes parole hearing for O.J. Simpson just hours away. What happens if he walks free? Ron Goldman's family is here live.
We recently had a heart attack.
But we are not victims. We are survivors.
We are survivors.
We are survivors. And now we take Brilinta.
For people who